Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. I'm much later than I wanted to be because we had a young man that committed to Mississippi State today. We've got the story written, got the interview with quotes and all that good stuff, and he told us, and we agreed to hold the story until he announced. He is trying to get some things together for that announcement, and now plans to announce on Sunday. So I tweeted out the /gift today, got everybody all hyped and excited, and now it's going to be Sunday. Today being Friday, so it'll be Sunday when he announces. But so 5 commitments in 5 days. We're going to kind of recap the week a little bit, kind of tell you what's left, what's out there, kind of give you some of the latest intel about the portal. But I wanted to get that out of the way first. So was going to record earlier today. We kept thinking all afternoon maybe we'd have this, and finally the young man gets back to us and says, hey, it's going to be Sunday. So Sunday. And when he announces on Sunday, you'll already know that it's coming because he committed today. Committed today, being Friday at Mississippi State. Now the dead period opens up on Monday. So busy weekend around the country and certainly in Starkville. Is we try to get the final pieces in place. Still got plenty of time. And maybe that's not the right way to articulate it. We still have time. But we can't sit around and just kind of wait. We've had some guys that have made plans to visit and then cancel the morning of. A lot of that going on around the country, for sure. So I will kind of give you guys an update on kind of where things stand and where we are. A lot of people, you only kind of keep up with recruiting peripherally. And so I share that with you because I think it's important that you guys are kind of apprised of how hard everybody's working. There's some people that think we're sitting around being cheap and just kind of waiting for things to go our way. And I can sit here and tell you that's not correct. It is now December 20th. Christmas is in 5 days. So you got 4 shopping days unless you're going to wait till Christmas morning. And chances are your shopping selection is going to be very limited on that day. Matter of fact, you probably won't find a lot of places open. Maybe the Love's Truck Stop or something like that. And I love Love's. They've been good to me over the years. A lot of Love's Truck Stop coffee to fuel the journey. But, very few shopping days left. And we're going to save you some time and effort. We're going to give you some gift ideas that you don't even have to leave home to get. How cool is that? It has been an exceptionally busy week at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville, especially today. Dennis, it has been absolutely slammed all day with people coming in to float, people scheduling floats, people calling to get gift cards, people walking in to get gift cards. You don't even have to show up. Now, you can. We'd love to see you to buy that gift card, but you can just do it over the phone. 662-268-7601. I'll tell you what's interesting, too. I'll read you guys a quick message. I won't say who, I didn't ask them for permission. But anyway, I got a message today. It says, hey, Steve, I just want to tell you about the great experience I had with True Rest with Starkville. I bought the buy one, get one free for my wife and her best friend. Somehow I lost the email gift cards and they got deleted. 100% my fault. I called Dana and she was so kind. She said, no problem. And within 5 minutes, I had my gift cards. It's been a pleasure doing business with you all. So if you are a person that just needs a break, or maybe you've got chronic pain, maybe you've got anxiety, there's so many things, PTSD, we may be able to help you. And so we encourage you to come out, and if you know somebody that may suffer from those conditions, perhaps buy them the gift card. And again, buy one, get one free right now, so they get 2 floats for the price of one. Maybe it's an event that you wanted to try. You wanted a friend to go along with you to enjoy the experience, you can do that. And on your first visit, or if you're a member, you also get the free oxygen bar. If you've never done that, I would encourage you, because look, the air that we breathe in and out every day is like 21% oxygen, oxygen bar 98%. So there's some vibrancy in every bit of that. Also, jeanspage.com, the greatest Mississippi state in the history of the world, half off the annual subscription price. That's an annual subscription price that will get you all the way through next football season. Get you through basketball, baseball, the summer camp sessions, fall camp, through football season, all the way into bowl season next year. So a full year of Jeans Page at half off. Just go to genespage.com and you can click where it says join and get it 50% off. Yeah, the annual subscription, 50% off. And of course, if you're looking for books, we're all over the place. As a matter of fact, on Saturday, I'm going to be at Lorelei Books in Vicksburg from noon to 2. And they tell me they're already ordered some more books. And I got to go by the warehouse and pick up some more books to bring with me. But they've already got several pre-orders for tomorrow. That's Lorelei Books in Vicksburg. So if you're out and about tomorrow in Vicksburg, come by and say hello. Or you can call in if you need personalization and we can get that done. You can pick up the book at your leisure. But all over the place, selling out of the dude. And it's very esteeming. I'll be honest with you. It's very, very, very rewarding. And I love you all so much for it. I absolutely do. I said this week I went to, they had to bring some books to Gumtree. They were completely sold out of the dude. Get down to Lemuria. They're completely sold out of the dude. Go by my home bookstore, Bookmart Cafe here in town. They're down to one copy of the dude. So everybody had to be replenished. And so that's a cool thing. So if you're looking for a gift, you can order online at dudynobblebook.com. But if you want it by Christmas, you need to go into one of the great bookstores around our great state that sell the book in person. And I will be at Bookmart Cafe Sunday from 11 to 3. So a lot to go on. So again, giving you some gift ideas. You want to buy me a gift and buy somebody else a gift by getting a float, an annual subscription to Gene's Page, or a book or two. And I would certainly appreciate it. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. I love Bulldog Burger Company. I have loved them for a long, long time. It is a raving love affair for me because there is a consistency. They are faithful to me. I know exactly what I'm going to get when I go in there. I'm going to get great food at a great price with great service, a great atmosphere. When you put your feet under their table and you make the order, they just kind of take care of everything else. You can be relaxed. You can go out there with your friends, your family. Maybe it's a business dinner. I don't know. But you can have an adult beverage, a glass of wine, whatever you'd like. You can have a night out with friends, the family. It's so great to be able to have options. And you know the kids want Bulldog Burger Company. You know they do, right? So don't deny those kids the opportunity to celebrate something in life. And you too can celebrate that great restaurant quality hamburger. Find your own favorites at Bulldog Burger Company. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. And again, get those spring rolls as your appetizer. It'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay, let's get up to date here on what's happening. A lot's happening, okay? Let's go back over to kind of the week that was, in case you've missed it. I know some of you guys kind of batch up your Boneyard shows and kind of listen to them when you have some time. But nevertheless, it's been a good week. Now, we're in a good position. However, we have lots of work left to do. And as I shared with you guys before, we're about halfway home. Jeff Lubby said on signing day it was going to be about 15 kids. Guys, it's going to be 20 or more. 20, 21, 22. We're currently at 10. So we're halfway home. Mississippi State currently the 5th best portal class in the country. And that's with all of our transfers ranked. And it's so interesting, too, the self-loathing Mississippi State guy will come out and say, hey, this is more about quantity than quality, which is incorrect. Just behind us at number 8 is Wisconsin with 13 commitments. At number 6 is Kentucky with 11 commitments. Now, not everybody's ranked. If we finish in the top 10, we'll have done exceptionally well. Minnesota at number 9 with 11 commitments. UCLA at 10 with all 11 commitments ranked. So I just say that because people want to poke holes in all that and say, hey, it's just because we got more commitments than everybody else. No, we don't. Matter of fact, the number 1 portal class in the country is at Texas Tech with 16 commitments. That's the most in the country. Second most in the country is Ole Miss with 14. So are you offering the same criticism of Ole Miss that you're offering to Mississippi State? I'd venture to say no. No, you're not. He said, but Steve, the average commitment, here's the difference between State and Ole Miss, right? Our average rating for our portal guys is 87.3. For Ole Miss, it's 88.7. So just over a point differential. So don't listen to any of that negative nonsense. We're doing a good job in the portal, but we got a lot of work left to do. And it's okay to say both of those things, fans. It's okay to say, yeah, we're doing well, but we still got to finish this thing. And we do. To sit here and say that, hey, we've done enough would not be correct. To sit here and say we're not off to a good start would also not be correct. All right, the latest commitment from Mississippi State is Jalen Smith, former Tennessee linebacker. And there's some folks in Tennessee that tell me we have got a real winner in Jalen Smith, not just as a football player, but as a person, that he is going to be a great guy in the locker room, on the field, in the weight room. Very significant commitment here, too. And also a guy, too, with a connection to Coleman Hotzler. I know Coleman Hotzler has kind of been a very, very popular, whipping boy here as of late. But Jalen Smith said that's one of the reasons that he chose Mississippi State. It's the opportunity to play for Coleman Hotzler. So they had a relationship from before when he was at Alabama and recruited him. And so that's important to understand. So very, 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 very good commitment. And I'll be honest with you, I felt good about it until the Auburn thing came along. Because, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Steve, we knew all along. How many times have we been there and it's like, okay, if we can survive the Auburn visit, we're okay. I go back to baseball portal season this year. Cade Fisher, right, was ranked the number one pitcher in the portal. I don't agree with that. But the guy obviously is better than the numbers show at Florida. And again, portal rankings, especially for baseball, are all over the place. But we said, hey, we felt good. We were the leader. He was going to visit Auburn, then visit Mississippi State, make a decision. He goes to Auburn and then never makes it to Mississippi State. Jackson Arnold, one of the top quarterbacks in the portal for this class. Guy that played for Jeff Lebby. Going to go visit Auburn and then Mississippi State. And we said if we can survive the Auburn visit, we feel really good. Well, he doesn't leave Auburn without committing. So now all of a sudden you've got this Jalen Smith situation kind of unfolding. And recent history has shown us we can't take anything for granted as it relates to an Auburn visit. So that was a big part of it. It's like if we can get through the Auburn visit, but that has been easier said than done this calendar year. But we do get through the Auburn visit, and we get Jalen Smith. And it wasn't just Auburn that we beat. He was at Virginia Tech earlier this week. So 3 visits in a week, and then State wins. So it's not just a player of significance that was highly covered at a high school, a guy that was productive at Tennessee, but a guy that was highly coveted out of the portal, and that we beat some Power 5 schools head-to-head for, or Power 4, whatever you want to call it these days. So yes, that is a very significant get. The day before, we got Darian Galat out of Texas, another guy with a connection to Coleman Hotzler, another guy that was highly coveted out of high school. Matter of fact, he was rated a composite of 94.48. Not quite as highly thought of now. Redshirted in 23 and kind of played sparingly in 24, but 6'3", 235. So back-to-back linebackers, very big, beefy backers that have played in the Southeastern Conference. Smith's played more extensively than Galat. But when you think about the players that we have leaving, right, especially at the linebacker room, just getting off the bus, we're going to look like a better football team. We're going to look like a bigger, more athletic team. That linebacker room is going to look completely different this go-around. Really not much question about it. And now you begin to ask yourself, how many more linebackers do we take? Well, there's a difference maker out there, and once you come, you absolutely have to take it. You make the numbers work. Simple as that. But 2 very, very good commitments. And so many of you are always like, Steve, hey, we need Power 5 players. We can't just get the ascending G5 guy. And I agree with that. I don't want the cast-offs. You know what I mean? I don't want the guys that are just been run out of Alabama. We've done that before. But you start looking at this here. With 10 commitments, you have 1 from Tennessee, 1 from Texas, 1 from Florida State, 1 from Michigan State, 1 from Oklahoma, 1 from NC State. So 7 of your 10, or is it 6? 1, 2. Yeah, 6 of your 10 are from Power 5 programs. Now, of course, the self-loathing Mississippi State fan is not going to be happy with that. It's not enough to get the transfer. It's not enough that it's a guy in a position of need. It's not enough to have a guy that was highly covered out of high school. It's not enough that he's a power 4 guy too. Oh, well, Steve, these numbers. Go look at Jalen Smith's numbers. Those are good numbers. Those are good numbers. And so I just caution you, there are some people out there you're never going to be able to please. I mean, I joked about this the other day. The entire Texas roster could transfer to Mississippi State. We'd have some people say they've already peaked. That's the point. But, yeah, we're doing well. Again, the job not finished. And so a lot of people wonder, okay, Steve, what's next? Well, we have got to get some war daddies on the defensive line. We've got a couple of edges committed with Nevaeh Sanders and Red Hibbler. Now, Nevaeh Sanders is more, if you're a football person, you get it. He's more of a 7-tech. I'm going to explain that to you as best I can in layman's terms. A 7-tech is basically a defensive end that is going to line wide of the tackle. And what he's going to do is try to find the quickest path to the quarterback. Guy that lines up outside on 3rd and 2nd long and just chases a quarterback. You're not going to have him on the field on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. You're going to have that guy out there to basically influence the quarterback. We didn't have anybody on the team this year that did that with any consistency. Now, Red Hibbler is listed as an edge, but it's really more of a traditional defensive end. Not a stand-up guy. He's going to play with his hands in the ground, more of a 5 technique. Probably the best way to describe this is more like a Jaden Crumbley type. You needed guys like that too. 6'2", 270 pounds. We had to get bigger on the offensive line. The defensive line too. Got to get bigger in the trenches. That's where we got beat up this year. We had skill. We just didn't have size in the middle. And how many games did you go through this year and said, just going to line up and run the football between your tackles? We can't stop them. We couldn't. That's what brings us to the biggest point. Like, the number one priority going into portal season was getting defensive tackles. We don't have any yet. So that's like the fan out there is like, hey, Steve, I like these guys. I like Jalen Smith. I like Darian Gillette. But we got to have some guys in the middle. We got to have some guys to keep the guards off of them and getting to the second level and kicking our backers out and gashing us up the middle. So that's a big priority. We have the quarterback, replacement for Michael Van Buren. So that's a box that's checked. One of the biggest boxes left is running back. Now, we have a running back, Wayman Jordan, on campus this evening. He committed to Central Florida on December 4th, didn't sign due to the coaching change. Looks like it's a State Ole Miss thing. Can't rule out a couple other schools, but it looks like it's primarily a State Ole Miss thing. He's here today. And usually you can kind of base the visits on basically a ranking of importance, right? But in the portal, you kind of get guys when you can get guys. So Wayman Jordan here today, and then Fluff Bothwell from South Alabama going to arrive tomorrow. I believe right now, as I sit here tonight, that the next running back in this class is going to be one of those two guys. You kind of begin to ask yourself, what if I could get them both? Then you say, do I need to get them both? And can I get them both? When I think about this running back room and how the lack of explosiveness that we had this year among experienced players, if I could get them both, I would take them both. I just don't think you can. I think it's going to be an either-or situation. Would like to get an attached tight end if we can. Some other guys out there. We recently had one guy we brought in for a visit, committed to NC State, transfer out of Elon. So that's part of the deal too, but got to find some more. And then wide receiver. I think you can take 2 more at a minimum. You have 2 in, right? You have Jerron Glover out of Michigan State, Brennan Thompson out of Oklahoma. You like those pieces. I still think we need the big X. We need the big guy that can elevate, a guy that can make plays outside the numbers with a great catch radius. Everybody wants those guys, though. But I think you're going to take a minimum of 2 more, possibly 3. And you know what happened last year? Just when you thought you were done at wide receiver, Labby and Bump go out and get Trent Hudson. Granted, Trent didn't play much for us this year. But offensive-minded coaches love new toys. And if you have a chance to go get a guy that you think can help you, they're going to do that. So I think a minimum of 2, more than likely 3, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility of 4. Just because I think Bump and Levy are like that. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we got a best available spot left. Let's go get a guy that can make plays down the field. So probably going to settle around 3, minimum of 2, possibly 4. Offensive line guys, you probably need to get 2 to 3 more of those guys. Of course, you picked up, Jesse Ramel early this week. Feel good about him. But, we're still chasing. We got to get a center somewhere. Maybe that's Kobe Keenum, a guy that we nearly beat Kentucky for in the first place. He was set to commit and ended up going to Kentucky, and then he continued to visit Mississippi State, came over some unofficial visits, took an official visit, just never could pull the trigger on flipping. Well, now he's in the portal, and he's a guy, too, that got a lot of connections to Mississippi State, just across the road there in Alabama. Dad's family's from West Point. Brandon Walker is a cousin. It could be Kobe. And people say, but Steve, the backup center, he was a young guy, right? He's a young guy. We'll find somebody. We will. But you got to get a center, probably a guard, and a tackle. Because right now you feel like, okay, I got Albert Reese. I'm building around that, but there's some other pieces that are going to be back too. So I don't know. Luke Work will be back. But you can never just depend on 2 tackles. You can't. You need to get 3 tackles, 3 guards, and 2 centers to play every single week. At a minimum. You have to have that. So, again, I think offensive line, you could see center, guard, and tackle. So you start doing the numbers on that and start thinking, okay, Steve, we got to get a running back? Yeah. Then we're going to get maybe 3 receivers? Yeah. And I'm going to get 3 linemen too, possibly. Well, you start doing the math on that, that's like 7. Yeah, that's right. And if you can get an attached tight end, you get him 2. Well, wait a minute, Steve. Jeff Levy said we're only going to sign 15. Well, I think Levy may have just been kind of pulling your legs a little bit, because we were told 20 all throughout the year. And then you think about what we have. Do we take any other backers? I don't think you do, unless it's a difference maker. You got to get a corner or 2. Probably got to get 3 to 4 more defensive linemen. You got to get 2 D tackles. And if I've got room in the scholarship allocation, I'm going to get as many defensive linemen as I can. If I can get 4 more, let's say I can get a full defensive line, right? I can get 2 more DNs and 2 tackles. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get 4 of those, and then all of a sudden, well, Steve, now we're 22, and then you got to get a corner. Yeah, so it could be as many as 23. And I think if I'm Jeff Levy, and I know how bad things were this year, especially from a depth point of view, I'm going to get everybody I can possibly get under the scholarship allocation. I am not leaving anything a chance. I'm not going to say, well, we'll pick up another guy in the spring. No, you got to make hay right now. Not to mention, you don't know the quality of players are going to be in the spring. You also don't know what the level of competition to sign them is going to be in the spring, because there are going to be guys that leave programs in the spring that open up spots for other guys. The price is likely to go up on those guys in the spring because people are going to have them. In addition to that, they don't get the benefit of your spring practice. They don't get the benefit of being in your strength and conditioning program, like we saw with Devin Booth this year, right? I mean, it took him half the season to really kind of find his SEC stride. You want to avoid that as much as you can. You get them in for spring practice. And if there is, a negotiable difference between maybe a December running back and a spring running back, I think that in and of itself is enough reason to say, you know what, I got to get the guy in December. I got to get the guy to give him basically a full year. If I get the guy in June, I don't get those 15 practices. In addition to that, they're not working with my coach throughout the year to kind of learn the scheme. They're not out here throwing the ball around with my quarterback. More times than not, when you go get that spring guy, that's the guy that didn't make his team or is unhappy with his role after spring practice. You want to avoid cast-offs as much as you can. There's going to be a bunch of those in the spring unless, more times than not, they're a grad transfer. There are some guys that can't transfer until the spring because they're going to finish up their degree progress requirements. That's a part you got to think about. But if I'm Jeff Levy, anything that I get in the spring is a bonus. I'm trying to get everything done now, because the sooner that I get them on my campus, the more that I can begin to coach them. I can't depend on the fact because, guys, listen, I don't know how hard everybody else pushes their players. I want them in my off-season conditioning. I want them acclimating to my campus and my way of doing things as soon as possible. So we can't approach this thing in December and say, well, there's going to be another portal in the spring. Because remember the discussion we had with Jeff Lebby last year around the transfer portal after the portal class signed? We're getting ready, and Jeff's like, Coach, what did you need? We got to get an edge. We found that out last year on signing day. We still have to get an edge. We didn't get one in December. We go all the way to the spring. We don't get one in the spring either. And you saw it play out every Saturday that we didn't have an edge. We didn't have a guy to go out there and make a quarterback uncomfortable. So, again, we cannot count on that. Simply cannot depend on that there may be an edge in the spring. Because I got to wonder, too, the quality of that player that's going to be available in the spring. The pickings are going to be slim. The prices are going to be high. I don't think that's a good situation for us. Now, we have money to spend, and we're spending it. But why spend more than you have to, especially for a player that may not be as good as the guy you have now? We hear it all the time, a bird in the hand's better than two in the bush. A defensive end in the locker room is better than 20 in the portal. Give me what I can get and allow me the opportunity to coach them and get my team ready. And again, I'm sure that's exactly how Jeff Lebby's looking at it. You want everybody here under your roof for that first team meeting January the 16th. You want everybody here. You don't want to be thinking, okay, well, I don't know if we're going to do with this guy, what this guy's going to roll, what his role is going to be. Maybe we need to get a guy in the spring portal. You absolutely can't depend on it. You just can't. And that's an important thing to understand. And so, again, the dead period opens on Monday, so you have through this weekend to finish really the first half of the winter window season. And then there will be another rush. It's true. There'll be another rush as these bowl games happen, as each playoff game happens, when these team seasons end, because they get a 5-day exclusion there. They have 5 more days to consider, because what happens is they don't have the exit meetings with their coaches until the season's over. So there will be another wave of players, and I think if you're a player right now, you're probably thinking about that too. I want to go ahead and pick my spot now before the schools that are recruiting me have more options, because more options are on the way, because the portal is going to be open till the 28th. So you're going to have guys, counting the guys in the playoffs, that are going to be going in the portal over the course of the next 2 weeks. Very important to understand that. And so that puts pressure on both sides to make decisions now. Because we've been in a situation now where you start thinking, well, that maybe somebody else will come along later, and then they don't. And if they do, it's exceptionally expensive. But we got to do what we got to do. Simple as that. But that's where it stands today. 10 commitments, really 11. We just got one that hadn't announced yet. But we have got to go out here and get some more size on the defensive line. And that, to me, that is the absolute biggest concern. You didn't need me to tell you that. You want to get the best players possible, but the most glaring need we have on this team is a defensive tackle position. And that's a luxury position. Outside of a quarterback, that is traditionally the highest valued player in the portal is the D tackle, because everybody has to have them, and there's not a bunch of them. So that's what we're kind of working on now. And it'd be great to get one now. I think everybody would feel a little bit better, when it's all said and done. If we had a D tackle pick us and go ahead and sign a financial aid agreement, you'd be like, okay, all right. Now we got to get at least one more at a minimum. Got to get 2. And again, I like those flex guys that can play a 5-tech or maybe a 4-eye or even a 3. I like guys that can play up and down the line. But we need some girth in the middle of this defense. And we saw how the injuries just negatively impacted us last year. And David Turner has taken a beating for it. He has. And I'm not going to defend it. I go back and look at last year's recruiting results, defensive line, not great. You look, no high school defensive linemen in this class. Now, some of that is a strategic decision It's not like David got beat on all those guys. There's some guys that he got beat up for that we weren't even really pursuing late. But you go out and get a couple of JUCO guys. Well, those are good depth guys for now, and maybe they're starters in a year. But the reality of it is you've got to have some guys that have D1 snaps under their belt that understand the rigors of interior line play. And that's what we have to do. And I think everybody in this fan base will feel better. He's like, hey, I'm having fun. We got some guys, but man, we still haven't fixed our biggest area of concern. Once that happens, I think there are some fans that are kind of on the fence about this portal class that'll kind of come into tune with everybody else. Like, hey, this is good. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, I'm excited about these linebackers. Hey, I think it's good now, but all of a sudden, if we've met our most critical need, now you go back and look at it kind of in hindsight and say, hey, I thought the portal class looked pretty good. But let me remind you, and if we tracked it all season long, our portal class, outside of a couple of guys, really didn't contribute this year. Now, some of that, too, can be attributed to the fact that Jeff Lebby trying to put a staff together, gets there right before the portal opens, and, you got to interview guys, you got to get guys lined up, you got to get them moved here, got to get them evaluated up, got to get them working on players for the portal. So we kind of had to hit the ground running, and we were already behind. This year you've had plenty of time to prepare, and I do think it's evident that we've had a plan every step of the way this time, and I think the results reflect that. But this class, its final grade will be determined by what they do on the field. But this class, as far as a rankings perspective and your expectations performance, will be decided on what happens over the course of the next couple of weeks. You got to judge it on its entirety, and then you judge it on the field. And for some reason, we don't have a lot of transfers to just show up ready to go. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is. It takes a little while to get these guys acclimated to the Mississippi State way of doing things. That's why it's so incredibly important to get them here in January. All right, time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. Blair is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. Give him a call today at 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. Whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, Blair is the person to turn to. 24 years of experience in this industry. He can get you to the closing table when so many cannot. A guy that understands how to structure loans that are going to meet the approval of underwriting. He'll be your advocate. And you know what? Get that pre-qualification letter. It saves you and everybody involved a lot of time and effort. Go ahead and get pre-qualified. You know exactly what you're looking for price-wise. You don't need to be out there shopping above your means. It's an uncertain future that we face, right? Last thing you want is a house note you can't pay. Last thing you need to be stressed about is paying the house note. Blair will put you in a home that is affordable and give you an opportunity to have room to grow. His phone number again, 601-500-2344. That's closewithblair.com. I think Blair is going to be pleased today. I guess in some ways we may call this the When Hell Freezes Over list. No, we're doing Nirvana. I've teased you Nirvana fans all week. I'm not a Nirvana fan. I do have a tremendous amount of respect for the impact they have made on music. And I will say, I don't believe they're nearly as talented as their contemporaries. But their influence is undeniable. Their following is undeniable. There's a lot of bands out there that have big followings that I don't really get. This is one of them. I do think they get more credit than they deserve. But Nirvana fans, today is your day. And I gave my best effort on this. And I listened, went back and kind of refreshed my memory a little bit. I was, an MTV generational guy, so I got to see all this stuff forced down my throat in the early 90s. And my first really interaction with Nirvana is the girl that I was dating. I lived with her for a while. Before I met Dana, she had bought Nevermind, and she really liked it. I won't say she loved it, but she really liked it. And we had gone to the sound shop at Cloverleaf Mall. Hey, Francis, what's up? Love you, wherever you are. We had gone to sound shop, and I bought Asphalt Ballet, and she bought Nevermind. Well, clearly, at the time, I probably felt like I had made the better purchase. She ended up buying a classic album. I bought an album that requires you to go Google, But I was into that obscure stuff. But there's a great song, that Asphalt Ballet song, Soul Survive. I love that song. Love it. Still listen to it. Listen to it more than listen to Nirvana. But I'm not going to poke fun. This is going to be a great, great moment for you Nirvana fans. I have humbled myself. I'm giving the people what they want. We have probably had 100 people that have requested Nirvana since I've been doing the top 10 list. Even though they're not my band, I wanted to give you guys a good effort. All right, number 10, the last known Nirvana song. And I kind of dig it, to be honest with you. I like the production value on this one. It's one of those, undiscovered songs they find kind of tucked away. When everybody's kind of moved on with life, somebody's like, hey, what's this? Oh, that's a song we never finished, But it's a song called You Know You're Right. And so, of course, this is, released much later, after it's all said and done. If I remember correctly, it was like a track that was on like a box set or something. Like that was like the bonus material, is you got this new single. And I'm checking to see when that thing was released, just because I don't know. There's so much on this stuff. You guys you get so caught up in all this stuff, you don't always understand, But I'm looking just because I want to make sure that we're right here. But, and no incesticide stuff on this one, just so you guys know. I know many of you would want like aneurysm and all that. No. We didn't do that. But nevertheless, I'm not going to waste any time on that. But you can look it up yourself. But again, You Know You're Right, the last known Nirvana song. Number 9, going back to Nevermind, it's Drain You. And I actually think vocally this is one of Kurt's better performances. Like some of the songs a little higher on our list are really known more for the instrumentation and the attitude. But I think as far as like being a rock singer, I think this was one of the better moments for Kurt Cobain. All right, number 8, the last official single that was released prior to Kurt Cobain's death. Now, I say death, and even though I do believe it was a suicide, there are many of you out there that refuse to accept that. So I'm going to be respectful, and we're just going to call it his death. After watching those documentaries, I do believe there is some compelling conversation that maybe there was foul play involved. I don't believe that's the case, but I can't eliminate that. And so I want to be respectful of you that kind of revere Kurt. But it's Pennyroyal Tea. That was the last single off the In Utero album, last official single. All right, number 7, a song that had a really goofy video. And even for you that love Nirvana, you'll admit that's the case. They had Kurt there with his slicked down hair and things like that. Yes, it's In Bloom. And one of those songs, too. I think, really, to me, the shining moment on this track is Chris Novoselic's bass line. I think the bass line on this is really good. He's not known as a very intricate player, but he can find the pocket and really lay down a good groove for you. And I think he does a great job here. All right, number 6, going back to Bleach. And I've had so many people within my circle of friends that are Nirvana fans, and they love the Bleach album more than any of the other ones. They think the Bleach album is kind of what Kurt's vision was. That it wasn't Nevermind. And again, if you actually do some research beyond the Nirvana Facebook groups, you'll find out Nevermind is not what Kurt wanted to do. And if you see some of these interviews with Dave and Chris Novoselic, they'll tell you Kurt wanted to be famous. Contrary to all the, there are these gatekeepers in these Nirvana fan groups that they'll tell you, oh, he was such a reluctant superstar. No, he chased it with all that he had. And then when he found it, it was one of those be careful what you wish for moments, right? It's an unfortunate tale in that respect. But a lot of people will say, I love Bleach because it is Nirvana in its purest form. It matches more of what Kurt saw for the band long term. And a lot of these songs were written before Dave Grohl joined the band, obviously. But about a girl. And I think maybe that's true. I think that is probably a little more on the punk side. There's a lot of times, too, when people can't play more than 2 or 3 chords, we call it punk, because it makes it sound a little more irreverent. But listen, I'm all for people that maybe not be the most technical players, but people that do a good job just kind of eliciting emotion from their listeners. All right, number 5, This is a weird one too. Like this was in the video, Kurt had pink hair. And if you know anything about punk, that's not punk, right? They're not big on that stuff. They're not the punks. They're not big on the pink hair and that kind of stuff. People will tell you otherwise, but it's not true. But it's Come As You Are. And that video was trippy too, man. It really was. And there are a lot of people that think lyrically this may be one of the better Nirvana tracks. There's some ironic lyrics considering his passing in this one. Number 4 is Lithium. And maybe I got my videos confused. Maybe Lithium was the one that he had to slick back hair. But either way, Lithium, of course, they loved it enough to name the Sirius XM grunge channel Lithium. A lot of people dig this track. I think sonically it is a really, really good track. The lyrical content to me is an absolute mess. But there are a lot of songs out there you just kind of sing along and you don't even really, it's like a mind drain, like you don't even really care. You just like the vibe of the song. That's the way that I describe this Lithium track. It's just really, there's a good vibe with this track. All right, number 3, and I think a lot of people talk about the Nirvana Unplugged. And of course, the Nirvana fans will tell you it's the best one ever. I don't think it's even close. But I think this was a shining moment in the Nirvana Unplugged MTV performance. And that's all apologies. I think Kurt was so incredibly authentic in that moment. It's a song that he wrote. Basically it's kind of a self-loathing song. Wish I was better. All apologies, right? I wish that I was a better person, a better version of myself. And I think, again, when you watch the live version, I think that is a very special moment in that performance. And there's a lot of stuff that you find out behind the scenes. Like now that all this hidden footage is being released, unreleased footage, that he was still kind of difficult to deal with. But I think in that moment, it was pretty a special moment. So now we're down to the top 2. If you've listened to the show for very long, I'll tell you, this is probably my favorite Nirvana song. Some incredibly astute listener of the show one day said, Steve, give us the favorite songs of the bands you hate. And this is the one that I picked for Nirvana. I think and honestly, if I had to pick my favorite Nirvana song, it's this one. It's Heart Shaped Box. It's been covered by several artists. Of course, it was the lead track off of In Utero, but I like the way the song builds, and I like the attitude in the chorus. So, of course, you know what number 1's got to be, and how really could it be anything else? And I remember, too, it was so much going on in the cookie-cutter, bloated 80s rock scene at the time. When Nirvana showed up, it kind of blew everybody up a little bit, right? Because we accepted Soundgarden. We did. Hey, Soundgarden went out with Guns N' Roses, so they must be cool, right? If Axl Rose would take these guys out here, we should pay attention. And I remind people, Soundgarden had already sold 2 million records before Nirvana had a proper record deal. Oh, you didn't know? Well, now you do. Yeah. And so Soundgarden had already been accepted into the community. A lot of it because Kim Thale is such an amazing guitar player, and Chris Cornell, one of the greatest vocalists of my lifetime. But there was no real rock image with Nirvana. I mean, they look like they just got done, working a double shift at Kenny's Shoes or something, and back in the warehouse, and then they just walk out on stage. And the video, of course, has some interesting qualities to it, for sure. Of course, Smells Like Teen Spirit. People don't get it. If you weren't alive back then, Teen Spirit was a deodorant. So that's your connection. It was just kind of Kurt being silly, right? Smells Like Teen Spirit had nothing to do with any lyrical content. There's no parallel that you can draw. It's just artistic silliness is what it is. But a lot of people love this song. They think it was a really turning point in music. I disagree, but it is, again, undeniable to say that they did not have a huge following. And really, I think because in many respects, even though they were fans of these bands, they'll tell you otherwise nowadays, but they were, there's like all this memorabilia out there about how they would go to shows, and go watch these rock bands perform. And so a lot of people, I think the record companies themselves kind of prop them up as like, hey, we're going to go anti-80s here. And a lot of people bought into that. And I think Chris Cornell maybe said it best. you know what how I feel about Chris. And of course, they were label mates with Nirvana. And Kurt did say some very negative things about Chris in the press. Chris that I've seen has never said anything negative about Kurt. Matter of fact, there are several pictures out there of Chris wearing a Nirvana shirt. But years before he died, he said one of the reasons that he thinks that Smells Like Teen Spirit was as big as it was is because you look at a Whitesnake video, and as talented as those guys are, you've got this beautiful actress model out here, doing a gymnastics routine on a couple of Jaguars. Well, that's an ideal that you could probably never live up to. It's never going to happen in your life, right? I mean, that's a lifestyle that you can aspire to. And of course, nowadays, everybody on Instagram, that's what they make you believe, But all of a sudden, you see these guys that look like you jamming on MTV, and you're like, hey, I can support that. These guys are playing in a high school gymnasium. I was in a garage band. We played in a high school gym. Look how these people getting off and being excited about this band, right? And so that's an aspect of it that I think is important to understand, is that I think Nirvana and bands like them just seem more relatable to people. And I think that had as much to do with their fame as anything else, is because all of a sudden Kurt Cobain looked like your neighbor or some guy you went to high school with, rather than David Coverdale out there in a $1,000 suit, with the wild hair. It's a much different deal. So we finally done it, and I hope I did a good job, and I hope you guys are happy with this. I suspect this will be a big list for us. Again, top 10 Nirvana songs. Hope you guys enjoy this. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samanthi, my friend, on Twitter at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. I'm on all forms of social media at Scout CVAR. You can find our great list on Spotify under the Dogmatic 67 label. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Go by and see them next time you're in town. If you're looking for Mississippi State merchandise, don't look any further than Campus Bookmart. Make life easy on yourself. There's no point going out there shopping a million stores when everything that you want and needs right there at Campus Bookmart. The latest in Mississippi State merch. Those diploma frames, a timeless gift. I would recommend that. I've gotten one for both of my girls. They absolutely love it. It warms my heart to know that that'll be on their office wall forever and a day. It'll be a frame that I bought them. Super cool gift. But buy something for yourself, too. And if you can't make it to town, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. I love being able to shop online, so we're going to make it easier for you. Give you a promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping and all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Again, campusbookmart.net. All right, Mississippi State women had an early tip today, took care of business. We expected them to. No real big surprise there. But, again, it's always a good thing, right? It's always a good thing when we win. And I think we're finding a little bit about ourselves. I talked about it today. That first couple of weeks in the SEC slate for the Bulldogs, nothing to sneeze about by any stretch of the imagination. But, I'd hate to call it an impressive victory, but we played well, no matter the level of competition. Bulldogs now 12-1 on the year, of course, to long loss to a pretty good Georgia Tech team on the road by 3. No such drama today as the Bulldogs take care of Maryland Eastern Shore 70-52. They fall to 4-9 on the year. Bulldogs up 18-4 after one, and then have an 8-point lead at the break and won every quarter, and just kind of coasted down the stretch. Biggest quarter for us proved to be the fourth. We win that one 19-13 to cap the scoring at 70-52. The star is Medina Okot. What a great game she had. 22 minutes of action, 26 points. Man, what efficiency there. 13 of 16 from the floor. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Denham DeShields, 34 minutes of action, 8 points on the night. Destiny McFall with 6. Off the bench, Anaya Russell with 16. 2 of 9 from beyond the arc. Kind of a volume shooter there. Not a great night from the perimeter as the Bulldogs 4 of 22. Sometimes you catch up with a bad rim, right? Just kind of part of how life works. But, Bulldogs shoot 18% from the three-point line. However, when you rebound as well as we do, and you've got somebody who can put it back there, it helps the overall shooting percentage. 47% from the floor. Bulldogs not great free throw shooting night either, just 55%. It is what it is, though. Sometimes you just got to make it work. And again, maybe those rims weren't good for us. Who knows? But down close, we were very, very difficult to beat. And points in the paint. I mean, that's something that should favor us, right? Well, we had 50 tonight, or this morning, should I say, 50. 20 from the bench, 6 second chance points, 9 on the fast break, and 20 off turnovers. State led throughout. There was never really any reason for consequence or concern in this ball game. And so one more non-conference game before we open SEC play. And we talked about this beginning of the year. It's like, hey, if we get through this thing, losing 1 or 2, we feel really good about our team. Sunday, December 29th. So a week from this Sunday, we'll take the Christmas break off and get our legs back under us and get excited about life. That's going to be a 2 p.m. tip against South Carolina State. We encourage you to come out and represent your family, your community, and cheer on the Bulldogs. This should be a bit of a laugher of a game. Probably a good chance, too, for Sam Purcell to get a lot of playing time, give yourself a happy locker room, but also save some wear and tear. But again, lengthy layoff there, too, so a chance to kind of work the rust out. But South Carolina State just 1-13 on the year. Their lone win came against Presbyterian College 59-54. And since that time, it has been brutal. 12 consecutive losses. And it's not like they've been playing South Carolina or Tennessee. They have not been playing a very, shall we say, ambitious schedule. They will play on Saturday against Coastal Carolina. And we expect that to probably go the way of Coastal Carolina. So they could be on a 13-game losing streak and have a 1-14 record once they get to Humphrey Coliseum. They are 0-6 in true road games and 0-2 on neutral floor. So you expect that. Teams that struggle typically struggle on the road too. So should be a chance for you to come and see a lot of points scored as Bulldogs get ready for SEC play. But again, that's a week from this Sunday, so you got plenty of time to prepare. Now, thinking of preparation, right? This is a game, too, this whole thing with Memphis. It's been, it's like, yeah. We played them in the NIT a couple years ago. They were a better team than us. They probably should have made the tournament. There was some arguments for them. They ended up beating us, and we played pretty well, but I thought they were the better team. But Penny Hardaway has kind of given Memphis a little bit of a boost. I think we would all agree with that. There's been some up and down moments, but also too, they have some credibility. And we got to go into the FedEx Forum. It should be a raucous atmosphere, and if you are going to be in the greater Memphis area, we encourage you to turn out. It's 11:30 a.m. tip in the morning, Saturday morning. It's going to be on CBS. Memphis ranked 21. This is one of those resume-building opportunities because we do expect Memphis to be good in their league, too. So this is one of those things that can really help you in the net. We encourage you to come out and be a part of it, certainly. But, looking at this Memphis team and kind of how they got to be where they are, they're 9-2 on the year. Some interesting losses, but some more intriguing wins. They opened the season with an 84-76 loss in the FedEx Forum to North Carolina. You expect Memphis, a program that they're kind of basketball crazy up there. They think that they should be a legitimate team, and they were for many years. So they shouldn't have a problem scheduling marquee matchups, and they didn't. They lose this one, but it's still a very competitive game. And then they lose to Alabama 96-88. So an 0-2 start, but since that time, 9 in a row. Excuse me, that's not right. I guess that was first one may have been anyway. Nevertheless, they've been hot since then. They take care of Missouri 83-75. They go to UNLV, they win 80-74. They get Ohio 94-70. You expect that. They go to San Francisco, a nail-biter of a game with the Dons out there, 68-64. Huge win for them as they take down UConn in the Maui Invitational, 99-97 in overtime. They win that event with a 71-63 victory over Michigan State. And yes, that game must have been an exhibition to start because they do lose to Auburn out in Maui. So my mistake, really two mistakes there. They lost to Auburn in the finals of the Maui Invitational. They win the first two games, lose to Auburn. 90-76, and Auburn might be the best team in the Southeastern Conference. Really loud win over Ohio State last week. 81-71 win over Louisiana Tech. They lose to Arizona State. The way this schedule is laid out, I don't know what's happening here because they are 9-2 overall. I guess the St. Jude thing was a exhibition. Yeah, the first two were exhibitions. So the losses to North Carolina and Alabama were exhibitions. My mistake. And then they lose to Auburn and Arkansas State. So they lose to Arkansas State in the FedEx Forum, 85-72. And then they go to Clemson, who was ranked 16th at the time, and beat them by 5 in overtime. No stranger to close games. They go to Virginia and take down UVA 64-62 there in Charlottesville. That was on this past Wednesday. So, again, you start looking at this thing, man. They've 9-2 in the regular season. But even I look at this non-conference stuff, I mean, there's not a lot of fluff in here. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of fluff in this. The mid-majors they're playing are decent teams. They're expecting a raucous crowd. We need a lot of maroon there. Without any question. I know there's a lot of Bulldogs in the greater Memphis area. Been looking forward to this game for a long time. We want you guys to have an opportunity to go out and poke your chest out at work on Monday. We want to get you a win. But these are the kinds of games when you begin to think about later in the year, when your resume is being reviewed by the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, this is a win you want. Truly. They're averaging 87.5, they've scored 875 points. They're averaging right at 80 points a game, allowing almost 76. And when you heard some of those scores, it kind of makes sense, right? So they're outscoring opponents by 3.8. It's a couple of baskets a game. Rebounding will have to be a significant part of this one. Shooting 46% from the field, allowing 43%. And I suspect we shoot it better than most of the teams that they've played. 41, almost 42% from beyond the arc for them. Opponents shooting right at 36%. They've been a decent free throw shooting team at 74%. Rebounding has been pretty much, half a dozen one way, six another. They are only out rebounding by 1.2 per game, 35.4 to 34.2. So, I mean, you're talking one loose ball here. That's been the difference. And in close games like this, that rebound could be the difference, especially if it comes late. Not playing a lot of good team basketball, though. 12.8 assists a game, opponents 15.6. It's 141 assists for them in 11 games. They have turned it over 153 times, so you're getting less assists and more turnovers. That speaks to guard play more times than not. Turning over almost 14 times a game, only forcing 13.5. Points off turnovers, it's basically everything is right down the middle. 19.3 points off turnovers, they're allowing 18.5. 76 steals, and guess how many their opponents have? You guessed it, 76. 44 blocks, opponents have had 49. The numbers speak to a team that probably should have a record closer to 500. But some individual effort has kind of made the difference here. Leading scorer for them, P.J. Haggerty. You had a chance to watch Memphis play this year? Yeah, the Dreads, baby, the Dreads. 6'3", 191-pound redshirt sophomore guard transferred in from Tulsa by way of Crosby, Texas. Has really been good for them. He is averaging 22.4 points a game. And he also gets on the glass, too. He is the second leading rebounder on the team with 65, pulling down almost 6 boards a game. Turnovers have been a problem for him. More turnovers than assists, 45 turnovers against 40 assists. Tyrese Hunter, 15.6 points a game. Colby Rogers, 12.5. Dane Danja, 11 points a game. And so you got 4 regulars that are scoring in double figures, and Dane only a part-time starter for them. Going to be interesting. Going to be an interesting game. Leading rebounder on the team is Danja, or Danja. I don't know how he pronounces it. But when he has not been in there, it's Moussa Cisse that has been the other player. But, we'll see how things go. But I know what this game means to our fans in the area, and I know what it means from a national standpoint, because this is a helmet sticker type game, right? Everybody knows Memphis. Everybody knows what a solid program they have been. Everybody knows Penny Hardaway. We know they're going to come out and play hard. We know they're going to come out, especially in front of their home crowd, having an SEC team in their home venue to come out there and try to make some things happen. So we got to stay on top of it. So again, if you're on the fence about going, we encourage you to go and take part in that ball game. And again, I like this Mississippi State team. They're fun to watch. I think you guys would agree. And you'll get a chance to watch them on a national broadcast tomorrow. So, you win this game. You talk about receiving votes in one poll and being ranked 25 in the coaches poll. You win this ball game, you're gonna raise some eyebrows. Some people are gonna be like, okay, Mississippi State, I see you go into Memphis and beat Penny and those guys right there at their place. I get it. Next home game will be after the Christmas break, December 30th. So the ladies play on the 29th. The men will be at home against Bethune-Cookman. We'll preview that much later. But everything is into this one. And I don't know that Memphis has seen a team that is going to play with the defensive effort that we will, especially in the second half. Chris Jans is the kind of guy that sees what you do in the first half, makes the halftime adjustment, and kind of makes things happen. We just go in there and make you uncomfortable. Make you uncomfortable doing what you think should make you comfortable. So that's an important aspect of this. We got to get out here and play well. This is a big ball game. Not just from a regional standpoint, not just from a recruiting standpoint, but a resume standpoint and a pride standpoint too. We have a tremendous amount of respect for Memphis basketball, and that's why it's a big game. We've played well, they've played well, even though we're a game better overall in the record. But this is an opportunity for us to really go out here and prove ourselves. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. People are wondering what the fuss is all about. Well, it's the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. Simple as that. You don't have to have a large group to stay there, but man, wouldn't it be fun if you did? Have all the friends or all the family under one roof. Maybe it's a baby shower get-together. Just stay together a couple nights. Maybe it's a bachelorette party. We don't want you getting too wild and crazy. You got one neighbor out there. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus, a very, very, very impressive facility. When you Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, their Facebook page will auto-populate, and you can peruse all the amenities available to you and your guest. You get that great back porch area. You get the full-service kitchen, that great living room area, 5, soon-to-be 6 bedrooms, 2 baths, the wet bar, the fire pit area. I mean, it just goes on and on. You can go see for yourself. I have been there. We're going to be staying there in a couple of weeks. We can't wait to have all the kids and all the grandkids under one roof. Matter of fact, my parents are coming up. My brother's coming up. We're just going to make it a big family event, spend a couple of days together, play a bunch of board games, just enjoy being together, right? That's the best part about the holidays, is being with those you love the most. It's true. Now, after you Google, you're going to see some booking options pop up. This is important. You can go Airbnb, you can go VRBO. It's up to you. Maybe you've got a credit you hadn't used yet. I don't know. But if you want to save some money, go through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's BSR10, the number 10, gets you 10% off your stay. So just by listening to this show, you're saving some money at the greatest venue in the Golden Triangle. Whether you're bringing a work group to town or a friend group or a family group, maybe you're here to take in a midweek women's and men's basketball game. Maybe you're going to be here, I don't know, for a ball game weekend. You need to plan ahead. It's a very popular venue. Chances are it's going to book up quickly for this baseball weekend. So if you haven't done it already, it'd be a great idea to kind of start planning ahead. Rather than get 5 hotel rooms, get the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. In the time that we have left, I want to talk a little bit about a few things as we go into the holiday season. I will be, Christmas Day is just kind of be another day around here. We don't have a lot planned for Christmas Day because we're going to wait and be with our kids for New Year's. But I think it's important to understand, number one, how special this time of year is, but also, two, to think about those around us that may be struggling a little bit. One of the things that we try to do on this show and others is to impress upon people that life is short. Death is certain. I'll be on a recovery podcast tomorrow afternoon with Ashley, who is the daughter of my dearly departed friend, J.C. Patton. And we'll have a chance to talk about recovery and about grief in recovery. One of the most important things about recovery is learning to process pain in a healthy way. Now, it is not a prerequisite that you should suffer with chemical dependency to learn to process pain in a healthy way. I think it is paramount to good living. And there are so many people out there, like, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Guys, let me tell you this. Happiness comes in such small doses in life. And sometimes we confuse contentment with happiness. It's like I'm not unhappy, so I must be happy. Sometimes there's just kind of a happy medium. Sometimes you're just living life and you don't have a care in the world. And you say, well, I'm happy. Well, that may or may not be true. So you need to base your life, in my estimation, on something more substantial. I get a great deal of joy from the work that I do. I'm a workaholic, I admit it. And I love what we do. I love the fact I'm so competitive, right? And so, when we find out there are official visitors on campus, we work exceptionally hard to get those stories up first. We do. It's a divide and conquer mentality. We try to get out here and get some things together to give you guys the best coverage. But work is not all of who I am. Many of you, that's my identity in your eyes is the work that we do. I had a dear friend several years ago, and how I met her was a recovery thing. Like, she had contacted me, and her brother was having some issues with chemical dependency. He happened to be a former Mississippi State student athlete. And she reached out to me and said, hey, would you be willing to meet with my mom? And I said, sure. Happy to do it. She kind of needed some advice on how to deal with these things and how to get him the treatment and help that he needed. Well, Mom couldn't make it, so she showed up and sat there and cried for 3 hours. And not just about her brother, but about all the other things. And that's one of the things that I've learned about life is that if you're willing to listen, everybody out there needs somebody to talk to. And maybe you don't have that person in your life where you can just kind of present the unvarnished version of yourself. I tell the people that I love and my friends, if you ever need somebody to call and gripe and fuss and cuss and whatever and not worry about being judged, then call me. Because I will listen to you. If you want advice, I'll give it to you. But if you just need an ear, I'm willing to offer mine. Because of the fact I understand how valuable that is. 33 years ago today, I was in Pine Grove Recovery. And that's not who I am. It's part of who I am, and that's one of the things my friend, who became my friend, is I was trying to help her and her family and her mother learn some coping skills for her brother. As we became great friends, she eventually told me, she goes, you share so much stuff about recovery out there. I don't want you to feel like that's all you are. You're not just a recovering drug addict or a recovering alcoholic. That's not just who you are. You have so much more to offer the world. And I agree with that. And it gets so convoluted at times that we get caught up in, covering Mississippi State is what I do. It's not necessarily who I am. It's a part of my identity. It is not my entire identity. And the same thing with recovery. Every good thing that has happened in my life has come as a result of that decision to get clean and sober. And so if you've seen me, a lot of people say, Steve, like you've lost some weight. Well, this is pretty much what I weighed before I moved to Louisiana. I went to the doctor the other day for my annual checkup, and I'm 2 pounds lighter than I was last year. And that's really just kind of eating cleaner, right? I'm just kind of stacking it different. You're not eating quite as many carbs these days, and it's not like I have a regimented plan. I just try to make healthy food choices, especially with traveling as much as I do. It's hard to make good choices. But I'm 6'2", 211 pounds. When I checked into rehab, I was 6'2", 146. And thought I looked great. That's what it does, you know. It takes you to the point that you lose all sense of reality. And when I checked, if you've read When the Bottom Falls, you've read this before. But I was in bad shape physically. I got arrested on December 10th and spent 6 days between Lamar County Jail and the Marion County Jail. And finally, my grandmother bailed me out. And I remember getting checked in to the Pine Grove facility. And I had not had a drug or a drink for about a week. I wasn't sober. I was just dry, you know. I don't think anybody would have sold me anything at that point because I was so toxic. I had so much heat on me, you know, a fresh arrest, you know, all these felony charges hanging over my head. There were so many things they charged me with that I didn't do. They were hopeful that I would turn state's evidence against some other people because I knew so much about the drug trade in South Mississippi. I didn't do that. That's one of the reasons that and maybe it's a pride thing, but I don't have a lot of respect for people that just won't take their lick, right? I understand you got to get the best deal for yourself, but I got caught, which didn't mean that everybody else had to get caught. I was dumb enough to do stupid things, so I faced them. And I remember going to Pine Grove and my mom there to check me in, and I can only begin to imagine the nightmare scenario in her mind is she saw her baby, her youngest child, 6'2", 146 pounds, burning up with fever, ready to pass out. And I made a prayer, and I hadn't prayed in forever. I was like, you know, God, I just don't want my mom to see me fall out on this floor. And I thought I was going to die, and I was hoping to die at that point. I was praying to die at that point. And there was a time before that I had raided somebody's medicine cabinet, and I got something that wasn't what I thought. Somebody had put some meds in the wrong pill bottle, and I ended up getting heart medication. And I remember laying in my bed with my heart about to beat out of my chest, thinking I was too scared to go to the hospital because I was afraid that they would call my family to let them know that I was there, and they would find out I was a drug addict. So I was content to die before admitting that I was a drug addict, or that I didn't want my family to know that I was involved in narcotics. And so there I was that day, and I just said, I just want to get to my room. So, I'm covered in scabies. I've been in a county jail. It is a miserable existence. And the road home seemed so dire. And I remember, and I've said this many times when I've spoken, I am so far away from where I needed to be that any step I took was in the right direction. And so they get me back to my room. They give me the detox drugs, and I needed to rest. And so I go back there, and I kept hitting the button, the service button, and I kept saying that I was cold. And I joke about this. It's really not a joking matter, but the guy who was the clinical assistant there was a doctor who had lost his license to practice medicine because he was trading sex for prescriptions. And so once he got clean and sober himself, he began to help other addicts. And so I would click that button, and he loved me enough to bring me 6 blankets. And I laid there. I woke up the next day, and I had an IV drip in my arm. And I prayed for God to take me. And in the middle of that prayer, that mental prayer, I heard another voice. In the moment, I'm thinking, yes, Lord, is that you? Am I being summoned home, And it was this doctor who was kneeling at my bedside praying for God to save my life. And as I wrote in When the Bottom Falls, I said, I'm grateful today that he had a better relationship with God at that moment than I did, because his prayer was answered. I was a hopeless drug addict, or so I thought. I was content to die that way. That's what I thought. I said, well, this is what will happen. And here's the thing that and nobody really told me until I began to kind of sober up a little bit, is I had a lot of trauma and pain in my life that I had to deal with. And I ran from pain and fear every chance that I got. And that's one of those things that I think that we talk about how tough we are, right? When you're out in an active addiction. You delude yourselves into thinking how brave you are, and how nothing bothers you, and how you're an emotional wasteland, that nothing or anybody can get to you. And the truth of the matter is, I was scared to death. I was scared. Because I never wanted to face any of the problems that I had in life. And so eventually, as I began to kind of sober up, and the detox drugs and the IV began to work, after 3 days of being on an IV drip, I ripped out my IV and I went in search of a cigarette, and went to the patient room, and there's all these people that would eventually become some of the most important people in my life. There were other drug addicts. And I remember one girl, I won't say her name because I don't know what happened to her, and I don't want to break her anonymity, but I walk in there and she's like, oh my gosh, we were so worried about you. There you are. Come sit with us. And I thought I was so much better than those people. I was the guy wearing brand new clothes, and the Z Cavariccis and the fancy dance clothes and $100 shirts, and that was a lot of money back in the early 90s. A lot of money now. I was the guy that had been on stage. I was the guy that people wanted to hang out with. I was the guy that girls wanted to dance with. And there I was, sitting between a couple of crack addicts smoking a Newport. It was a very humbling experience for me. And I remember sitting in those groups and everything else. I looked around the room and I thought, I'm just so much better than these people. Why am I here? Why am I having to do this? And then eventually, God got a hold of me and taught me some humility. And I began to listen to these people that I previously despised. And I realized that I am no better than them, because we are in the same place now. We may have gotten there on different ships, but we were in the same boat now. And there are going to be other people in your life, and maybe you're suffering with something similar. Maybe it's gambling, maybe it's sex, maybe it's food. I don't know what your obsession may be. But at the core of all of that is a self-loathing person that doesn't love themselves. And so we get joy out of the things that are self-destructive. It's like, hey, I know that I'm dying. I know that I'm miserable, but maybe I'm just scared to kill myself. And I'd already tried that. And so I share this with you because if you are one of those people, I love you. And that may be something you haven't heard a lot lately. And I had a discussion with somebody earlier today, and I had a chance to get to know their story a little bit. And I told them, I said, hey, I've really only known you for a few days, but I want to tell you something that maybe you haven't heard enough in your life. And it's, I love you. And it's not just idle chatter. I do, because I have been where you are. I know those feelings of loneliness. There is a difference between being alone and being lonely. And there were many times in my life when I was lonely and I tried to pass it off on the solitude of being alone. You don't have to be alone. Being lonely is part of life at times, and there are times that I get lonely around here. But the reality of it is more times than not, because I always feel like I'm entertaining, it takes so much out of me to be everywhere and be everything for everybody. I found out tonight that we had this book signing tomorrow at Lorelei Books, and it wasn't my fault. I found out late. They've already advertised it, of course, so I'm going to go. I'm committed, right? I just found out about it. But they've been advertising it, so we're going to go. And I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to do a great job. And I'm going to go do this recovery podcast, and I'm going to come home. But when I'm home, I'm home. It doesn't mean that I'm manic depressive. It doesn't mean that I'm antisocial. It doesn't mean that I think that I'm better than anybody. But I need some time to retreat. Sometimes I just need a minute. There are a lot of people that pull on me. A lot of people that pull on you. And sometimes that can be a very daunting thing. And there are days I sit around here and days on end, and it's just me, the computer, and my dogs. And I love those dogs, and I love this computer, and I love the life that I have with all of you. And those days, most of those days, I'm alone. And there is value in being alone sometimes, even for an extroverted person like me, to have some time to retreat and heal. Because whatever I'm involved in, I give 100%. I give everything that I have. When somebody books me for an event, I want it to be successful. Because if they're going to go to all the trouble to spend advertising dollars and to make their venue available to me, I want to give them my 100% best. And there are a lot of times, too, that I don't get invited to a lot of stuff. A lot of times it's because people say, well, I know he's busy, or I don't want to bother him. Sometimes I need a break. And sometimes I need a break from being the home entertainment system for everybody. But as alone as I feel at times these days, I know that I'm not truly alone. I'm just by myself. But back in 1991, when I laid in that bed and prayed for God to kill me, I was totally alone in the world, or so I felt. I'd never been so lonely in my life. And thankfully, I haven't been that lonely since then. I've had some bouts with loneliness, don't get me wrong. But if you're there today, and I don't say this to praise myself, I use these moments to praise those people that loved me and prayed for me and saw some of the despair that I was in. Nobody really knows the truth, do they? Nobody really knows the depths of our despair at times. But I can assure you, you're not alone. When I was, and I wrote about this in When the Bottom Falls, basically, I set my house on fire, metaphorically speaking. And then I couldn't find the doorway out. And the people that loved me kicked the door down and rescued me. Now, I had to make the decision not to run back in the house afire, because that's always available to you. It is. But the reality of it is if you can find a way to be honest with yourself and to other people, you can put that fire out and you can build again. And there are many people around us at this point that their house is on fire. And it is up to us to go kick the door down and save them. And there are some people that are content to just lay in that fire until it consumes them. And I'm very grateful that I didn't have a family willing to sacrifice me. I know some families out there, and this will come across very cold and callous, but it is the reality of life for some people. It was a young lady. I say young lady. She's much older than me. She had a son that was about 10 years younger than me. And friend of a friend, right? She contacted me, and he goes, the friend tells me, it's like, hey, I got a friend that's got a son that's in active addiction. Would you be willing to talk to him? I'm like, absolutely. Here's my number. You give it to him. I'm happy to speak to them. I'm expecting it's 19, 20-year-old. He wasn't. He was 40, I think. And anyway, I had to listen to this mom basically excuse every bad decision he ever made. Like he had a divorce and he got a bad divorce settlement because the wife was sleeping with the judge, or it's just the most fantastical nonsense you'd ever heard. And so I gave her a plan of action. I said, here's what you got to do. She's retired, and the son was like bleeding through their retirement. I said, you got to start cutting him off. And maybe if you don't have the courage to cut him off all at once, maybe each month you eliminate one bill of his that you're paying. Well, it took exactly 2 months of her not paying his phone bill and his cable bill at 40 years of age that he decided, maybe I need to go to rehab. He goes to rehab. He AMAs, and if you don't know what that means, it means he left against medical advice. And she called me in a panic, and I said, well, the reality of it is he is a grown man. He has to make these decisions for himself. And this is a lady that had hung up on me before when I told her she was an enabler. And I asked her, I said, let me know when the funeral is, because I'll come sit next to you and hold your hand, because you're killing your son. And unfortunately, after he AMA'd, he called his mom and said, hey, they talked to me for one day and said I'm not a drug addict. And then 2 days later, they found him floating in the bay, dead of an overdose. And so I share that with you because I don't want you to be floating in a bay somewhere when your family is desperate to find you and bring you home and taking the steps necessary to try to save your life. You cannot save someone who does not fear death. It is nearly impossible. If someone doesn't value their life, they're not going to take the steps to save their life. So we have to give them something to live for. And the only thing that I have found in life that can't be measured, but it's always a requirement for living, it's love. If my mother and my father and my step-parents had not loved me enough, it would be me floating in that bay. That's the reality of my existence. And so everything that I have and that I do today comes from that. I spent Christmas in Pine Grove, and I was bitter and resentful about that. Even when I checked in, I said, no, I'm going home for Christmas. They're like, no, you're not. And then my mom looked at me and said, no, you're not, which may be one of the only times that she had told me no. But the reality of it is that I didn't need to be with my family for Christmas. And so many years, and I used to go every year, but COVID came along and things changed. But every year I would go to Pine Grove in December, and I would spend a couple days with the men in treatment there, and I would share my story with them because I'd never felt, again, so alone as I did in Pine Grove. And that Christmas was the worst in my life. True story. Because I had to come face to face with who I was and what I wanted to be in life and what I had done. I had faced a very uncertain future. I had all these felony charges over my head, some of which that I was never indicted with because I didn't do them. They overcharged me to try to get me to plead guilty, and I ultimately did plead guilty. I had a good lawyer. I'm very fortunate that I did, and I got the RID program instead of real-time and parchment. And the truth of the matter is I probably deserved it. There's a lot of things they never found out about that, if I'd been charged with it, it'd been a little different story. But I am a different person today. And there is an authenticity in what I do and say. That's not to say I don't make mistakes. I still make a ton. I do. And when I get off my program and I don't have accountability partners and I'm not honest with myself about stuff, I can talk myself into some pretty stupid stuff. I can. And I can rationalize it and justify it and say, this is who I am, and it's okay. It's okay. It's not okay. It's not. And so I share these things with you, and I didn't plan to do this as extensively as I did tonight, but after the conversation today, I thought to myself, there may be some of you that haven't heard the words, I love you, in a long time. And maybe you haven't heard them from the right people. Because I'm going to be honest with you, there are some people in my life that I have loved and loved and loved, and they may have liked me a lot. And I wanted them to love me. I did. And I don't just mean romantically. There are other people out there, I have been a much better friend to them than they have been to me. It's not a contest. But I love them anyway. And so I didn't want the day to end without you hearing that I love you. And there are other people that love you that may not have the words to share that with you. So on their behalf, I want you to know that you are not unlovable. You are not in a situation that people don't care about you, because they do. They may not just be as in touch with their emotions as me. You know, when I see you guys at book signings or ball games stuff, and I see that look of recognition, you say, "Hey, Steve, hey, good to see you." That's your way of telling me you love me. And I want to make sure that you hear it back. There's a lot of split-level communication that happens in life. My favorite expression in the world to ever say, the four words that I love to say more than any other, are "I love you too," because it means somebody loved me enough to tell me first. So I want you to know that there is love for you. You have a place, you are wanted, you are needed, and no matter what you've done, you are not so far down the path that you can't find your way home. And please pray for the still suffering addict and those who love them, because it's a very difficult time for them. It truly is. I hope that you guys have a great weekend. And I don't want to end on a somber note. I am a 12-step recovery success story. And I remember telling my first sponsor, "I'm going to do everything that you tell me to do and prove it to you that this stuff doesn't work." Well, here I am 33 years later still trying to prove it doesn't work, because it works if you work it. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.